to a boat called Wanda. I'm pretty keen to start putting some primer on the hull, and as we saw in the last update, I just received my delivery from Marine Industrial, which is all the stuff I need to put some primer on. So let's go straight into that and open up those boxes and just go through what I've got to work with. So first up, I have got a tin of primer. Now I've gone with using Jotun, and I'm using their Mega Yacht range, and this is a high build primer called Mega Primer Light. It's a two-part primer, so somewhere else there should be another box of the second component. Okay, so this one I've got, there should be 10 of these actually, paint trays, paint rollers, ×2, brushes. Now this is the Jotun thinner for the Mega Primer, so you can basically thin it down a little bit or use it for clean up rather than acetone, because this is specifically designed for this product. So that's the Jotun thinner number 17, which goes with the Mega Yacht range. There should be 6 litres of that, a couple of mini 4-inch roller brush sets, and a big box of foam thingies. Let's see what we got here. Ooh, some overalls. This is the component B for the Mega Primer, so there should be 2 of these, and it's not cheap by any stretch of the imagination. I'm quite shocked at the price really, but there you go. The component B. Next, feels like another pot of primer. Lucky last, good old acetone. So there we go, that's about 400 pounds worth of priming equipment. Well, it's finally time to put some primer down on the boat. I've got everything ready, I've got my materials here, I've got the hull ready. Rob's coming around in about an hour to give me a hand, so all I need is a little bit more heat in the shed. So it's time to start up the warp thruster, space heater. Number 1, make it so. Aye, Captain. Sorry about the background noise, everyone. I've got the engines running on warp 5, so it's pretty noisy in here, but there's nothing much I can do about that, unfortunately. So I just need to shoot this video with the noise in the background. But this is day 2 of putting down primer. So yesterday was the first coat, and obviously that's the one that I videoed, so you saw that, and I probably won't do any more video of that. It's just going to be more of the same, but I thought I'd show you the primer I'm using and the process I go through to get the primer onto the hull. So the product I'm using is by Jotun, and quite a few people recommended Jotun as a cheaper alternative to All Grip, and they're both industry standards. I think at some point Hallberg-Rassy were actually using Jotun. I think, I'm not sure. Okay, so this is stirred up enough. And so now I'll mix it up. It's a 4:1 ratio of component A to component B. And so I've just measured up and put some lines there of where I need to pour into. So let's see. Okay, so this is the second part, component B. Same deal, Give it a nice stir. Keeping it in that heated box means that it's really, it's not that difficult to stir. Yesterday when we mixed it up, it had just been sitting out here to room temperature, which was about 9 degrees to start the day anyway, and it was really, really thick. So it's amazing how much easier it is to work with since it's been pre-warmed. Okay, so now I just have to mix it and mix it and mix it and mix it and mix it. And I've got my primer. The good thing is it's got a pot life of about 6 or 7 hours. And at 10 degrees, it'll be ready for the next coat in 16 hours. So pretty much trying to do one first thing in the morning each day. Okay, well I'll finish this up, do a quick acetone of the deck to prepare it, and then we'll get the second coat on. Now you might remember a couple of months ago I'd bought myself a handsome selection of Christmas presents, and I'd promised to open them up and show you what they were, and it's probably time to get into that because I actually need to use this one first up. So let's take a look at this bad boy. It's a big black box. Looks like it's in pieces as per usual. One piece. An open packet of nuts and bolts, which I always love. It's great to have a packet that's not closed properly. There's one left in the bag. Don't know where the rest is. What else we got here? More foam. Pulley thing. Handle. Orange gear. Some sort of wheel. A collar. A handful of nuts and bolts loose in the bottom of the box. That really annoys me. Why do they do that? A little box. A motor. A base. Oh, batteries. What on earth does it need batteries for? That's interesting. Some sticks with orange bits on the end. A clamp. Another piece of the base. Instructions. So let's see if you can guess what it is. Great, looks like the magic assembly fairies have come along and they've assembled my drill press for me, so great. Yeah, it looks pretty good. I read a lot of reviews about this. It's a Titan brand, which is the sort of home brand that Screwfix do, and it had excellent reviews. It had a lot of reviews and they're all very positive. And so far it seems like incredibly solid, and it's got all the features that you need for a drill press. So I'm just going to have a look at the pulley configuration and do a bit of a test, and then I'll show you why I need this now. One of the reasons why I needed to get a drill press is I need something that will help me get perfectly level holes, or even holes that are on a slight angle. Now here I'm making up some jigs that will help me guide the hole saw and the drill to the correct angle so that I can drill down into the toe rail without coming out of the side of the boat. So basically here I'm drilling a hole that's set to 5 degrees, and I'll also make some other blocks up that are perfectly perpendicular. So step one, first clamp up some blocks either side of the toe rail. Step two, I've got my guide block here, and the previous one had a 5-degree angle on it. As I go closer to the bow, the angle needs to change a little bit, but right here it needs to be perfectly perpendicular. So I'm just going to position this over where I need to make the hole. Now I just need to screw that guide block down onto these strips on the side of the toe rail. Okay, so using my inclinometer, I can just adjust these screws until I make sure that the base is perfectly level, so I'm going to get a nice perpendicular hole here. Okay, that's looking good. So now I can just set up my hole saw, and I'm going to use the pilot bit as well, because that will give me a center that I can then run this flat saw down. Basically this will set the shape and the position, and then this will cut the material out. Now, I've built this up in stages. The whole saw is about 45 millimeters deep. So it's actually hitting the end of this, so I just take off the top piece and that will give me another 18 millimeters clearance. Okay, now I'll switch over to a flat blade to clean out most of that material, and I should have enough depth now to guide the flat blade down so that I don't go off at an angle and come through the side of the toe rail, which would be very bad. Okay, so that's it. I've got my 50 millimeter deep hole. So it's 27 millimeters wide. So there's plenty of room for me to put some strengthened epoxy down here, and that just needs to basically position it. So I'll have another chance to really position that stanchion base to make sure it's the perfect angle. But the purpose of this hole is making sure that it's sort of close enough to the right angle, because you don't want to have it too skewed off, because you'll just be wasting a lot of material. And the other reason is obviously I don't want to come in on an angle, because I've got the toe rail coming like this, and the hole needs to sort of follow the shape of the toe rail as much as possible. At this point the toe rail is flat though, so it's not so much of a problem, but still I need to make sure that the hole is going down straight and not at an angle like that. Right, so I've got another 2 to go, and then that's the end of all of those little bits and pieces that I did to open up the toe rail, drill out all the crap from the stanchion base, get rid of all that material, roll up some fiberglass, put it down, put some epoxy, fair it, put another layer of fiberglass wrap around it, fair it again. It's been a massive job, but that's it. Hopefully this will hold and I shouldn't ever have the same problems that I had before. Well, the previous owner had before. Well, the epic story of the mast base is just about drawing to a close. I'm just in the finishing stages of sanding it out, and I'm actually pretty pleased with it. It probably is much, much better than what it looks. So I've done most of the sanding with some 80 grit, and I'm finishing it up with a 180. I don't want to make it too smooth. I need some texture to it for the primer to stick to. So as I said, I'm pretty pleased that this curve along this side is really nice. There's no high spots or bits in the middle. It's pretty consistent. Going back this way as well, I've got a nice curve here. Then it's flattening out across this way in the middle, which I can see. I've actually surprised myself. I think I've done a pretty good job on this. Okay, so now for the moment of truth, to try and see if this piece of timber in the middle is going to come out. Okay, well that's what I've got time for this week. This is probably the second last update that I can do for this period. There'll be one more probably the end of next week, and then I'll have to start my break, unfortunately. So just before I sign off, let's have a little bit of a recap to show you where I'm at and what I've got to do next. And then I'll sign off and I'll see you next time. So thanks for watching. So all of the hull has been finished with primer. There's 3 coats on here of the mega build, and the final coat's been drying for about 3 days. So when I come in next week, I can start to knock this back with a longboard. Up on deck, I've got one last skim going on the top of the cockpit coaming. All through the cockpit you can see the brown areas that have got some fairing compound on that have been skimmed and filled. They're just all the little screw holes and dings and bits and pieces. So the cockpit is now ready to have primer applied to it. All of the deck has had a good going over, and the toe rail is finished now. There's some filler on the deck with just some little holes and nicks and pieces that need to be knocked back. I've done a test patch there of the primer, Of course, I've got the mast step there, I just need to bed that in, and that's it. So really there's not much left to be done before I can get all of this deck and cockpit and coach roof primed.